More than anything, Batman is famed for having the best rogues gallery in comics. The hero's collection of fearsome foes is only rivaled by Spider-Man and the Flash. Each of these psychotic criminals brings something unique to the table, adding flavor and variety to the countless stories penned over the years. This project is extensive enough it's been fairly time-consuming, so this video is not my complete ranking but a preview. So many characters have been created over the span of 80 years that even on a top 25 list, some dishonorable mentions are in order. Catwoman and Talia. Why aren't Catwoman or Talia al Ghul on this list? Well, to feature Talia or Nissa on this list would be a bit redundant. Yes, she's been a villain, especially in more recent years, but Talia is no Ra's al Ghul. As little as 5 years ago, I'd say Catwoman not only deserves to be on this list, but if the ranking was objective, she'd be in the top 3. But with Tom King's run shipping Batman and Catwoman to the point of devoting the first 50 issues of his run to setting them up for a wedding that may or may not occur someday. While no less important, Selina just doesn't have the same place as a force for evil as many of Batman's adversaries, especially these days. Additionally, both will be featured prominently in my upcoming Top 6 Batman Love Interest video, so they'll get their due. Magpie and Killer Moth. Magpie is not in the same league as the Sirens, and probably never could be, but the villainess's pathological desire for shiny things fits right in with the obsessive nature of many of Gotham City's villains, and she makes for an amusing foe. Magpie has received a little spotlight in recent years from her appearance in the Beware the Batman cartoon, but has not yet had a significant enough presence in the mythos to make the cut. The Killer Moth of the Golden and Silver Age of comics was conceived as a sort of anti-Batman, an inverted ripoff of Batman complete with Mothmobile, Moth Cave, and Moth Signal. That civilian identity rose to Bruce Wayne's wealthy social circle. He was essentially a mercenary, offering criminals protection, rescue, and running interference to Batman and the police. He even managed to capture Batman and uncover his secret identity. While he had a strong start, later writers kept portraying Killer Moth as a joke, and so in spite of a history spanning well over 60 years, he has yet to reach the heights he could have as a villain. Anarchy is a precocious 12-year-old that found out through letters with his pen pal that the world isn't a perfect place. One would imagine he'd just have to look out his window in Gotham. After a few months of study, he decided to join Gotham's collection of costumed weirdos, driven by odd, self-contradictory philosophies. Done right, Anarchy could be a compelling villain for Batman, or Tim Drake, but between relatively few appearances, attempts to use him as a mouthpiece for writers, and frequent portrayals as more of an anti-hero, Anarchy has not yet reached his full potential as an antagonist. Deathstroke, the Terminator, is not someone to mess around with. DC's best villains save Joker and Lex Luthor. Blow for blow, gadget for gadget, tactic for tactic, Slade Wilson is the most even match Batman has ever faced, though I'd give Slade a slight edge given he's metahuman and tends to come out on top in the comics. Slade respects Batman for his ultra competence, though feels it's wasted on altruism. This is a matchup that makes for great battle of wills, but at the end of the day, with Deathstroke, it's more of a respectful rivalry than antagonism. He is the Titan's and Grayson's arch foe, and occasional ally. Talon. The Talons are a group of assassins that serve the Court of Owls, though one singular Talon tends to be focused on in each version. One of the Talons was actually Grayson's great-grandfather, but I haven't read the comics with them, so I can only comment on the versions in animation and the Gotham show. Not only are the Talons proficient and deadly fighters, but as many are kind of zombies or at least heavily mentally conditioned, the Talons are very difficult to take down. I'm featuring Talon as an honorable mention because of the version in the animated film Batman vs. Robin. He really made that movie. Whether that variation or William Cobb, these prominent Talons are figures close to Batman's wards, that aim to recruit them away from their father figure, making for good conflicts. Now on to the top 25. Bear in mind these rankings are mostly subjective. The majority of them are based merely on how much I like particular characters, as opposed to how popular they are among the fan base or how important they are to the overall mythology. Number 25, Professor Pig. Laszlo Valentine was one of the most recent breakout villains in the Batman mythos. His name's actually an abbreviation of the Greek term Pygmalion, which is fitting given the nature of his work. Pig was leader of the Circus of Strange, obsessed with making people his perception of perfect. He used all manner of methods, including surgery, mind-altering drugs, and viruses to transform people into androgynous zombies called Dolatrons. Pig's hardly the sanest of Batman's rogues, and that's saying something. And between his army of Dolatrons and surgical tools, he makes her a reasonable threat. Number 24, Deadshot. The deadliest non-powered sniper in the DC universe, Floyd Lawton started as a minor Batman villain in the 1950s. The character experienced a bit of a revival decades ago when he became the most prominent recurring member of Task Force X, the Suicide Squad. What makes Deadshot a compelling villain is his professionalism, that he has a bit of a death wish, and he's a father. For all their skills, Batman and Deadshot both have a history of holding back fighting each other as well. Number 23, Solomon Grundy, born on a Monday. Cyrus Gold was a fellow whose corpse was dumped into Slaughter Swamp, and for various reasons, depending on the version, came back from the dead as a large, pale zombie with immense strength and an intellect capable of little thought or speech except the nursery rhyme that gave him his name. While Grundy makes for a very formidable opponent, his power level has been very inconsistent. Historically, sometimes Batman is shown beating him in a 10-second speed blitz, while in other depictions he has even defeated Superman. Grundy might casually rip off your arm, but he's not that antisocial. He's been portrayed as forming friendships with Two-Face and Riddler, as well as being recruited for various supervillain teams. Number 22, Hugo Strange. Hugo Strange was actually one of Batman's earliest foes, appearing in Batman #1 as a somewhat generic mad scientist that was creating an army of monster men. Though a pretty infrequent antagonist, Hugo was one of the first Batman villains to discover his secret identity. Strange envies Batman and ultimate goal is to supplant him. Like Mad Hatter, he was utilized quite well in the Gotham show, which highlighted his talents and amoral fascination in the fields of psychology and genetics quite well. Hugo seems to function best as a villain when he works for a mysterious villainous benefactor, whether Ra's al Ghul, the Court of Owls, or Bane. Number 21, Firefly. There are 3 different people who've gone by the name Firefly, so identity and characterization, even gender, varies. The villain's most consistent depiction is a pyromaniac with a jetpack, flamethrower, and explosive weaponry. Some versions are more mercenary, others wild, deluded, and childishly petty. Funnily enough, despite becoming a more popular villain and arguably more dangerous, on multiple occasions Firefly has tried to partner up with Killer Moth as his sidekick, the Robin to Moth's anti-Batman. Number 20, ManBat. In the world of Batman, it was only a matter of time before a writer came up with a man-bat. Dr. Kirk Langstrom, clearly based on Kirk Connors of Spider-Man fame, was a scientist that created a formula for sonar or curing deafness, depending on the version. Instead, it turned him into a monstrous man-bat, often lacking Kirk's mental faculties. Other people have been exposed to the serum, including his wife Francine, the she-bat. At one point, Talia al Ghul forced Langstrom to help her turn some of her men into a squad of man-bat commandos. That's right, you thought a bat monster would be a chore for the Dark Knight? Try an army with swords and ninja training. In the animated film Justice League Gods and Monsters, that universe's Langstrom was an alternate take of Batman as an anti-hero vampire. Number 19, Killer Croc. Like Man-Bat, Killer Croc is a villain heavily influenced by Lizard. Not surprising given Waylon Jones was created by early Spider-Man writer Jerry Conway. Waylon Jones was born with a genetic defect that left him with reptilian skin. He became a crocodile wrestler before getting into the Gotham crime scene. Croc's biology has a tendency of transforming further, adopting more primal characteristics, like a tail or snout. Croc has superhuman strength, durability, and healing, a keen sense of smell as well. He's also a cannibal. Number 18 is Victor Zsasz. Zsasz is best described using Jason Todd's words for another villain as a pathetic pile of death-worshipping garbage. Zsasz is an accomplished serial killer that keeps score through self-mutilation. What makes Zsasz compelling is that he is one of Batman's most grounded and least theatrical adversaries. He's not a lunatic running around with a freeze ray or exploding wind-up penguins. He's a regular lunatic that you would not want to meet on any day. Apologies for the slow output. I'm working on several other projects as well as voice casting my next dub. If you have enjoyed this preview, make sure to like and subscribe for updates.